The rest of the process of animating the penguin took about another hour, and so I've sped up this video to show you the process. So here you see I've made my selection set, and I am making some adjustments from different camera angles to the penguin's poses that I already had for the first jump, and just constantly rotating around and checking it from every side, but at the same time making sure that I have my camera 1 visible, and this is the camera that will render, so we want to make sure that the animation always looks good from that angle. So we got our first jump. I spend a little bit of time here adding an additional anticipation for the second jump, and then I duplicate that pose and move the character forward. So this was the down pose. And then now what I'm doing is sort of a pose where the character is looking at the box. Here's where I'm adding in the up pose. So keep in mind, you don't have to create these poses in order. Like, you can use Maya's timeline to help you get certain poses a little easier by maybe you make the pose that's a few poses ahead, and Maya's timeline helps you get the next pose. Again, every time I make one of these poses, I select the entire character and hit S to make sure I'm setting a keyframe on everything. That way I know that that pose will still look like that later. And so I have this anticipation pose of the character watching the box, and then we squash down when it realizes that it's something dangerous inside of the box. And I'm going to do more of a cartoony, like, jump scare here. And I'm mainly just getting the main pose here. Later we'll come back and we'll add a little bit of a vibration or like a shake to this, and we'll use the graph editor to do that. So this is the character jumping back, being surprised by what they found in the box. And for a little while, this part of the animation is not going to look right. And that is really where we just start trusting the process. Now, this part of the animation is definitely not going to look right because I want the character to kind of zip out of frame. All right. And so I tried some stuff here. I break the rig a little bit. And I want you to notice that, like, I'm mostly rotating the controls, but occasionally I will translate them just to get a little bit of stretch or just to manipulate the model to get the pose that I want, right? You want to be careful not to break it and to make sure it feels like you're staying on model, but at the same time, you want to use the rig to get exactly the drawing you would need. With this, I want to feel like the upper body pulls the character out, and then I'm making those feet sort of drag along behind just a little bit, so they're the last things that they go out of the screen. I'm also kind of leading with the eyes. I'm making the eye control sort of go off frame first, so it feels like it pulls the character off frame. Okay, and what you'll notice is that some of that section there where I had to do the character going off frame, I was setting a keyframe on every frame. Now I've intentionally gone through and set a keyframe on every frame so I could get this little vibration in here. And I'm just going into the graph editor and just getting a little bit of a wave action to get that shake that happens when the character is up in the air, to sort of give it that fearful look. I'm not doing this on every control. I've keyed every control, but right now, to get the animation, I'm mainly doing it on the hips and the feet and some of the spine to get that. So at this point I realized the background was kind of distracting and the barrel was in my way. It was kind of blocking some of the action. So I decided to change the scene. I actually moved the boat over, and the barrel was already animated, but I was able to move the entire barrel just by shifting curves in the graph editor. So rather than having to reanimate that, I was able to just shift the entire curves over, and all the animation still stays the same. Now the barrel is just in a different place. Here I'm going through and refining the curves on the hips for the character, or for the center of gravity. You saw me earlier breaking tangents the same way we did with the bouncing ball to make the jump look a little bit more poppy and, and getting this bell curve shape in the jump. Finally, the last thing I did is I went through and I added additional keyframes just on the wings to give me like a little bit of a wing flap to make it look like the penguin is trying to fly, but really he's just hopping. And I think that made it a little bit cuter.